Welcome to Design for Darkness. My name is Elizabeth Rangard, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the IALD. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to go over some general housekeeping notes. If you have any questions for the speaker during the presentation, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen to type your questions. We will take questions at the end of the presentation. If you have any technical issues, please put them in the chat function and an IALD staff member will respond to you privately in chat. Finally, this session will be recorded and is available after the conference. Your microphones will be muted and cameras turned off for the duration of the session. Now, I am pleased to introduce Helga Iselin Wåseth. Helga studies outdoor lighting and its assessment of biodiversity and safety. She has more than 15 years of experience in lighting and is particularly concerned with the influence of light in nature and how to achieve a safe environment while keeping light to a minimum. Let's hear from Helga.
Hi, my name is Helga Iselin Wåseth. I am currently working at the University of Southeastern Norway as a lecturer and a PhD candidate. Last year, I wrote a master thesis while I was studying urbanism at the Architect School in Oslo. And today, I will mostly talk about what I did in the master project and the main findings that I came to. But first, I will start with the background. When I was a kid, we mostly went for summer holidays in the car. And an important job for the kids at those car trips was cleaning the windscreen. It would look like this after a few hours on the road. This summer, I went for a car trip with my kids. We drove from Trondheim to Bodø and back again, which is around 1,400 kilometers, without even one insect splattered on the windscreen. It's not that I want to kill insects when I drive, and it's not that I really want to clean the windscreen either, but I have to admit that the fact is not entirely reassuring. These two articles made me aware of the problem. The one at the left is well known. It warns about an ecological Armageddon after a dramatic plunge in insect numbers. They refer to the fact that 3/4 of flying insects in nature reserves in Germany has vanished during the last 25 years. A fact that is stunning. But the biggest concern for me is the article on the right. It says that light pollution is one of the reasons for the insects' decline. And I am a lighting designer, and I've worked for almost 10 years with outdoor lighting. So when I see that the lighting that I put up might harm nature, I have to find out what to do. So in the initial work with my master thesis, I conducted a literature research, and among other things, I found these two reviews from one Norwegian and one Swedish researcher. They show clearly that it's not only the insects that are highly affected by artificial lighting at night. I can far from mention everything here. Here are a few of the facts that I found. Insects often swirl around light posts at night because they think they are orienting themselves after the moon. It has been proven that many insects die as a result of this. Migratory birds are confused by light on oil platforms and die from exhaustion from flying around the platform. Birds are affected by earlier morning activity and earlier nesting period, which can have evolutionary consequences. Trees harden less and keep the leaves longer, something that affects how they can cope with the winter. The salmon's migration patterns can be changed and the disposition as a prey animal is increased. Lighting near the shore can cause turtle hatchlings to become disoriented and wander inland, where they often die of dehydration or predation. The human being is also dependent on the natural shifts from light in the daytime and darkness at night. We need the dark hours of the day, not only to sleep, but also to withdraw and rest. Elements that are important for our ability to learn, storing memories, and making use of things we learn. I believe that the lighting we provide should mimic the natural lighting as much as possible, just like we do in offices and schools. At night, street lights should rather mimic the sunset lighting at midday. Personally, something feels wrong when I go for a walk at night and the lighting around me seems like daylight. I prefer the lighting to illustrate evening. This might be a blasphemy, but in this regard, I actually find the high pressure sodium to be better than the 4000 Kelvin LED. The Norwegian philosopher Christian Lysvåg says it so wisely. And the artificial light thus makes the night, the darkness, and all the infinite nuances of nature's own light inaccessible to us. We do not see stars. We do not see the animals, the shadows, the peculiar details that emerge in the dark. We have actually made ourselves completely useless as sensory beings. And the LED seems to be part of the problem. An article by Fabio Falchi and his team shows how the bluer light of the LED increased the problem of light pollution. The figure on the left illustrates light pollution in the atmosphere over Europe in 2016 when the article was written. Figure B on the right side shows a forecast of the perceived sky brightness for a dark adapted eye after a transition toward 4000 Kelvin LED technology without increasing the photopic flux of currently installed lamps. What it shows is a 2.5 times increase of light pollution only by changing to bluer light. What causes the problem is that the lighting on short wavelengths, that is the blue light, spreads more in the atmosphere and causes 2.5 times more light pollution in comparison to the high pressure sodium. His figures does not show that most of the times when changing to LED, light levels also increase because LED is so much more effective. This is called a rebound effect. Another factor that is good to mention here is that the shorter wavelength lighting, as well as spreading in the atmosphere, also spreads more in our eyes, especially of older people. That means that the bluer light also increases the glare effect from the lighting. This table is taken from the EU Green Public Procurement Criteria for Road Lighting and Traffic Signals from the European Commission, a report that aimed to address the key environmental impacts associated with the design, installation, and operation of lighting systems. The table shows the spectral distribution in different light sources that are common in road lighting. Here we can easily compare the level of blue light of each luminaire. The blue light is in the short wavelength part of the spectrum that we can see here. These peaks are from the blue light in the LED. And if we compare the 4000 Kelvin that we see here, with, for example, the 3000 Kelvin, we can see that in the 3000 Kelvin, we have less blue light. And even if we compare 4000 with the 2700 Kelvin that we see here, we have even less blue light. And here we have the PC amber LED with almost no blue light at all. We can also compare the 4000 Kelvin with the high pressure sodium that you see up here. It also has a bit of blue light, not as much, or the low pressure sodium with no blue light at all. So this image can be seen in two ways. It can show the brilliance of human technological innovation, but it can also show the opposite. With the technology that we have today, the expertise of brilliant lighting designers and lighting engineers, it should be possible to remove the excess lighting seen from space. Lighting design expert has to be in the forefront to show how that could be done, and our job is particularly important in the years ahead. It is common to say that the more light, the more security we provide. At least we feel more secure, because the lighting gives us an overview. But when we know that the lighting has such a big ecological impact, we have to find a more sustainable way of lighting up our surroundings. In my master thesis, I made a small research project on this. I wanted to look more at the connection between light levels, nature preservation, and sense of security. And the following slides will show some of the results from the study. In order to understand the problem, I conducted a case study with 5 different sites, where I looked at different lighting principles for footpaths and how they influence light pollution and the sense of security. The first project was Jørpelandsholmen, a small island in the west of Norway, where the local municipalities wanted to light up a footpath for recreational use. The lighting designer from Light Bureau conducted a lighting mock-up to ensure that the light installation was in line with the municipality's wishes for a nature-friendly light setting. The result from the mock-up allowed them to ensure that the lighting is there to give the pedestrian an experience of the nature on the island. In the mock-up, they found that a soft transition between light and shadow on the footpath led the users to accept lower light levels. With great contrast between light and shadow, users experience the dark part between two luminaires as even darker. We chose to use customized bollards. The light source is located below hip height, and the light is directed down towards the ground, thus preventing direct light causing glare. They always ensure to put a luminaire in curves of the footpath. This gives the pedestrian an overview of the course of the path. When surrounding trees, rocks, and boulders were illuminated, the participants in the test lighting also accepted lower light levels in the trail. Small amounts of light was necessary since the overall light level is so low. Some light on the surroundings provide an overview of the situation, and it also has the effect of highlighting the nature around the footpath. Some light behind the bollard provided more overview, something that also led the participants to accept lower light levels. The light is turned off at 11 o'clock. People who want to walk later than that knows that they will walk in darkness, something that can also be a very nice experience. The most interesting with this project was to see how the lighting designer managed to create a light setting where the intention was to merge the lighting as much as possible into the landscape. They managed really well, and although some of the lighting can be considered to be light polluting since they're lighting upward and into nature, these measures contribute in keeping the overall light levels low. The next project, lighting, was also based on bollards. This is in Eikholt National Center for Deafblind. Here, one small part of a footpath leading to a house was illuminated. Since visually impaired people are more vulnerable to glare, the lighting designer chose to use bollards with a light focused to the ground to highlight the footpath. The bollards was placed relatively close to ensure even light levels along the path. What I found in this project was that the light levels at the footpath were too high, causing a big contrast between the footpath and the surroundings. This was due to a control system that was not installed yet. Another problem that we can see in this picture was the lack of lighting in the end of the footpath, as we see over here. A bit of lighting here would have shown us clearer where the entrance is and marked the ending of the road. As a part of the project, I tried to walk the path with special glasses that illustrate the effect of cataract. For the footpath, that was okay. I managed pretty well to understand where to walk, and the white line in the middle also helped to know where to walk. But what surprised me was that the light that we see up the hill up here was glary, had a glary effect. And as a visually impaired, a small light as that is enough to cause confusion. The light is leading the attention to the wrong place. In the third project I analyzed, a footpath in Grorudparken in Oslo, where we can compare the same principle of lighting with two different technologies. First, there were installed luminaires with compact fluorescent on 26 watts, and a few years later, luminaires with LED on 43 watts was installed on the same light post with the same type of luminaire. This gives a good opportunity to see the effect on the two light technologies. My personal experience in the park was that it was more comfortable to walk under the compact fluorescent, so I conducted a light measurement to see if various light levels could explain my experience. Here I show the result from the light measurement at face level at different positions along the path. First, I show the result with compact fluorescent. The light level in the face varies between 12 lux, 2 meters before the light post, to 1 lux in the face when you have just passed the light post. And the light level is lower in the part with in this part of route, but it is also less glary than in the parts with LED. So here we see the LED part of the footpath. I have two measurements of the part with LED. These levels that I show here are from the first part where the light levels are in phase varies between 40 lux, 2 meters before the light post, and falls to 1 lux when you have just passed it. And then it increases gradually up to 40 lux again. Between two light posts, the light level is at 12 lux. And the third measurement is from the part of the path with newer LEDs. They were actually put up while I was doing the research. Here, the light level in the face is at 67 lux, standing 2 meters from the light post. And when you pass the light post, it falls to 2 lux. Between the two light posts, the light level is at 7 lux. So my conclusion from this case is that in the part with LED, there's a large variation in light level. The eyes must constantly adapt. The worst is the one that I show here, where the variation is on 65 lux, compared to the first example, where the variation along the path is only 11 lux. Facial recognition is said to be important when you walk at night, but I question it, since facial recognition also in most cases means that you will get glary light in your face. It will also vary according to where on the footpath you are positioned. With a high light level at the footpath and in your face, you also create a big contrast to the light level in the surroundings, and they will seem even darker. In this project, you can not even say that you save money by using LED, as the LED light source is 43 watts compared to the compact fluorescent on 26 watts. They might have dimmed down the light levels in the LED. That would reduce the wattage. And worth to mention here is that the footpath is going through a park with a small river. Before installing the first light, the one with compact fluorescent, there were discussions with the Nature Preservation Department in municipalities. They stressed the importance of keeping light levels low and avoiding lighting up the river. And because of that, the lighting is turned off at night. I believe that dimming the light levels should also be done now that they are changing to the LED. The fourth case was an underpass in the outskirts of Oslo. This picture is from before the underpass was rehabilitated in 2016. The project was conducted because people in the neighborhood found it intimidating to walk in the area at night. The reason why I chose this as one of my 5 cases was that I wanted to see if the light installation had changed people's perception of safety in the area. And here's the result after the refurbishment. More light and bright colors make the underpass more lively. But did it change the perception of safety in the area? My small questionnaire among pedestrians show that still some feel uncertain when walking in the area at night. The result is based on a very small study and is not suitable to draw any conclusions from it. But it seems like more things with the area could create a sense of uncertainty. Inside the tunnel, the light levels are high and even. There are no glary light sources. The problem is that the light level drops dramatically when you come out of the tunnel. And this can be one of the reasons for people not feeling safe. While you go through the tunnel, your eyes will adapt to the higher light levels, and then making the surroundings appear even darker when you get out. People in the survey also pointed at the presence of other people as reassuring. So the more people, the better. Dark side areas with vegetation beside the tunnel also cause a sense of uncertainty among the respondents. The conclusion of this case study is that light projects like this will probably help on a sense of security on an overall level, and probably they lead to more people walking in the area. But it is important to look at the light levels in the area as a whole. As a lighting designer, we know how the eye adapts to higher light levels during a few seconds, but it takes a half an hour for the eye to fully adapt to low light levels again. The last case that I studied was this road crossing in Oslo. The background for my interest in this crossing was some complaints from neighbors to the crossing after a major luminary replacement in the area. They complained to the municipalities for too high light levels towards their property. This made me curious, and I wanted to know why they complained and what was done to meet the complaints. This picture is from one of the neighbors' garden. The light post that you can see here up in the corner is clearly disturbing with a high light level and glare effect. This figure shows the problem. The lighting is not adapted for the street layout. When they change the lighting in the area, they simply put up a luminary with a linear output that you would use in a street. For the street crossing in this situation, that sends most of the lighting directly into the garden of one neighbor and into the living room of the other neighbor. No wonder that they were complaining. But the municipality lowered the lighting levels and put up a shield toward the properties, so now the problem is solved. But if we look at the situation in a broader sense, we can look at the adaptation to the area. The light level was not only lowered at the specific place, it was lowered by 50% in the whole area in the evening, and at night the light levels are dimmed all the way down to 20%. This makes me think that the chosen luminaries for the area are very oversized in terms of light levels. So my conclusions from this case is that if we are going to be able to lower the light levels in the city, we need to plan the lighting thoroughly and adapt it to the area. both in direction and light levels. Large luminary replacements doesn't necessarily allow this into the planning. So here are my findings after the study. Some elements that can help when we want to provide lower light levels. Adaptation, allowing the eye to adapt to lower light levels by avoiding glare and large differences in lighting levels. Overview, providing some light outside of the footpath gives an overview that can be reassuring. Readability, emphasizing on elements that underpin readability in the area, like entrances, crossings, or a visual clue that mark the end of the footpath. Customizing, making sure that the light setting is designed and customized for the specific area. Controlling light levels, make use of the technology and dim the lighting. Dim the light levels at night and turn off lighting when it's not in use. Reduce blue light. Use low color temperature, the lower the better. Consider the PC amber LED. Holistic approach. Don't look at light levels isolated. Look at the whole situation and think about the adaptation process in the eyes when you design. Remember that it takes only a few seconds to adapt to high light levels, but it takes a half an hour for the eye to adapt to lower light levels again. Lowering the overall light levels increases the ability to actually design the lighting. At lower light levels, lighting designers can do what they're best at. They can create an atmosphere that makes people appreciate the darkness. Work on the master thesis gave me an urge to continue researching on this topic. So I will spend the next few years on a PhD project where I will look deeper into solutions that can lead to less light pollution. I believe that by starting from the human sensory system, it may be possible to create settings that require less light and at the same time beautifies our surroundings. I will be researching on human perception in mesopic and scotopic conditions in order to better understand factors that can reduce light pollution. French photographer Thierry Cohen has made photos of cities and manipulate them so we can see how they would look under a natural starry sky. Light under a moon and starlit sky should actually be enough to read the newspaper, and our eyes are dark adapted. The cities, as they are lit up today, our job as lighting designers are difficult. The potential of bringing out atmosphere lays in removing the excess lighting. Imagine this image as the equivalent to the canvas of the painter. This is the canvas where we lighting designers can actually bring out the vitality of the city at night. Here we can beautify our surroundings. By putting light where it's needed, avoiding glare, and guiding the way, we can attract more people to the streets. And at the same time, we can see more stars than we see today. We should always consider the moral values in our design. Tyler Stone has written an interesting article on a PhD where he looks into the moral framework of lighting at night. Here he made a list of the effects of light pollution and determined some associated values of darkness. This illustration he has put up the 9 values, and he also states relevant actions related to each of them. So the action related to ecology is the protection and preservation of species and biodiversity. Action related to efficiency and sustainability is responsible use of lighting where and when needed. Action related to healthiness and happiness, promoting and fostering human health and happiness. Action related to connection to nature, serving connection to the more than human world. Action related to stellar visibility, preserving conditions for access to the firmament. Actions related to heritage and tradition, preserving the cultural heritage of the night sky for future generations. An action related to wonder and beauty, preserving the aesthetic appeal of the natural night sky. To sum up my presentation, I will show this simple reminder from the International Dark Sky Association with 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting practices. Useful. All lights should have a clear purpose. Before installing or replacing light, determine if light is needed. Consider how the light will impact the area, including wildlife. Consider using reflective paints or self-luminous markers for signs, curves, and steps to reduce the need for permanently installed outdoor lighting. Targeted. Light should be directed only to where it's needed. Use shielding and careful aiming to target the direction of the light beam so that it points downward and does not spill beyond where it's needed. Light should be no brighter than necessary. Use the lowest light level required. Be mindful of surface conditions, as some surfaces might reflect more light into the night sky than intended. Controlled. Light should be used only when it's useful. Use controls such as timers, motion detectors to ensure that light is available when it's needed, dimmed when possible, and turned off when it's not needed. Color. Use warmer color lights where possible. Limit the amount of shorter wavelength light to the least amount needed. There's a big paradox when the blue-rich, cool white LED lighting, with the most which is the most energy efficient, also appears to be the most ecologically unfriendly. At the start, I said that the LED seems to be a part of the problem, but the LED is actually not the problem. The problem is how the technology is used. The LED technology has plenty of possibilities that can contribute in reducing light pollution. We just need to make use of them. The light designers are the best to understand how to make use of the potential. With LED, we can tune the color and remove as much as possible of the blue part of the spectrum. We can control the light levels according to time of day, or even dim down the light levels after a snowfall. We just have to do what we like the most, to use our creative minds to find solutions for the future. By that, I want to say thank you for your attention, and please join the dark design movement.
Thank you, Helga. I believe we have time for one quick question. Have you done any studies regarding what is the acceptable luminance of lighting fixtures at night to achieve visual comfort?
No, unfortunately, I haven't done that yet, but that's my plan to start doing this during the next year, actually. So hopefully I can have some answers for you soon.
That's excellent, excellent. And then here's another question. What are electric light approaches to implementing circadian lighting systems?
Yeah, so to answer that, I think I can. The CIA, they say that in the daytime, humans need as much light as possible, and especially in the blue part, or the cyan actually part of the spectrum. And at night, they say that we need as less possible light and less possible light in the cyan part of the spectrum. So I think that's kind of the simplest way to answer that yeah, humans need as much light as possible at daytime and less possible at night. But we can't, of course, turn off all light at night, but warmer colors, trying to avoid the cyan part of the spectrum, is better for human health.
Great, thank you, Helga. And one last question, are there any organizations in Norway that are working for darkness?
Yeah, actually, we are starting up an organization right now, so it hasn't started yet, but within the next few weeks, I guess we're gonna be up and going. So, and we hope to also be joining the International Dark Sky Association, so we are gonna be connected with them.
Great, thank you, Helga. I believe we are out of time, but again, great presentation, really enjoyed it. And thank you all for attending today's session. Please enjoy the rest of the conference, and we hope to see all of you at the closing general session. Thanks again.